Obviously, the main thing that separates somebody from catching a fish is the actual fishing line. And I've got John Crane here today on Ice Fishing 101 to help us learn a little bit more about the different types of fishing lines that are available, because there are a lot today.
It's confusing, Jason.
Well, and if you go into a tackle shop, just like with any jig or spoon or any type of tackle that you want to buy, the ice fishing aisle is no different. There's so many colors, there's so many different styles, but let's start with the most basic. What would you suggest to the person that's just getting into ice fishing? What type of line would you suggest that they look for?
Good question. I think you want an all-around basic line, and that would be the monofilament, and we may as well just start with clear. So you're going out your first time ice fishing, get clear monofilament.
And because ice fishing is a lot different than open water fishing, I know it's relative to what species you're trying to catch, but is there a certain weight we should look for? I know in my mind, if I'm just beginning, I'm thinking, well, I want to catch big fish, so I should go with a heavier line so it doesn't break my line and get away.
Well, you're not going to get as many bites with heavier line, so you always want to hedge small to get more bites. Worry about getting them through the ice later. If I'm pan fishing, I'm using 3 and 4 pound test typically. That's for those bluegills, perch, crappies. For game fish, typically walleyes and saugers, I'm using 6, 7, or even 8 pound test.
Now I see that there's a lot of different colors here. If you were, again, just starting into ice fishing, should you gravitate towards your favorite color, or what are you looking for?
Again, I would start with clear, and then as you get more experience ice fishing, move to some of the colored or metered lines. They'll help you visually see the bites and catch more fish sometimes when you can see the bites.
So John was talking about the metered line, which is a combination of a colored line and a clear line. So you tie onto the clear section so it's invisible to the fish, but yet you can watch the colored section and visually detect the bite.
Sure. With the metered line, there's typically 18 inches of colored line and then 18 inches of clear line.
And there's a lot of specialty lines then too. As you start to become more and more well-versed in ice angling, you might have a specialty rod for each species of fish or condition that you're trying to accommodate. So what are some of the other types of lines that we have out there besides monofilament?
Well, we've got the braided line, and oftentimes I'll use this with a balanced swimming minnow, like a Tikka minnow or something like that. Now, you're a guide. What are you using your braided line for? Well,
I'm usually using it for the same type of thing where I want low stretch. I want to be able to feel that bite easily. I want it highly abrasion resistant. It's tough stuff. And the nice thing is the diameter for the pound of test is smaller than that of, say, monofilament. So it moves through the water really quickly, and you've got a lot of response from your bait. But one thing that people always ask me too is, what knot do you use to tie this? And that's a whole nother subject that we have to go on to, but you can't use the same knots with the braided line that you can, or typically use, I should say, with the monofilament line.
Sure.
And then we've also got fluorocarbon, and that's a whole different category in itself too.
Yep.
You use a lot of fluorocarbon?
Absolutely. It's thinner diameter, low stretch much like the braid, but in a monofilament type property. So fluorocarbon is for those tough bites, those cold fronts, when you need to thin down, but yet it's strong and responsive, and it doesn't have the stretch that monofilament has.
Well, and I'll tell you honestly, most of my ice reels are spooled with a clear fluorocarbon, excuse me. And I like that fluorocarbon because it's abrasion resistant as well. A lot of times you can get a nick on fluorocarbon and it'll still retain its integrity for the remainder of the line. Whereas like a monofilament, if you get a nick on it, sometimes it'll just tear through and break the line. So you have to check your knots in your line very, very frequently. But fluorocarbon was designed to be used originally in saltwater application, so it has nearly the same light refraction as water. So you talk about that tough bite, that's the time to use it.
Frost fluorocarbon.
It just works wonders on those finicky fish. So I think we've given a pretty good overview of your options of what you're going to spool up with when you head out onto the lake, and hopefully this will help you catch a few more fish as you go ice fishing this season.